time. Morning, friends. I am here to share that video about verse mapping that I told you I would share. I'm not sure how I'm going to proceed with this. We will see at the end, but I did record my process like I promised, and it was an hour and 15 minutes long, and there was a lot of silent minutes of me just writing because I cannot write and talk and read at the same time. Man's got to know his limitations. So, I am giving you the end results first, and then I may just tack on the start of the other video to the end so you can see what I'm referencing and kind of, but again, I don't want to do a lot of edits, so that may just gracefully fade to black. We'll see. Let's start with this. So, the verse mapping I had made, I had watched videos to learn how to do it. This is the first time I've ever done it, and that might be why it took so long too, because I've never done this before. Also, I've never used a Bible concordance before, which is a new add to my stash. So, again, you don't need that. There are free resources online, and actually, I ended up not using it because I don't know how to use it, and I ended up using the free resource online. So, and I tried to turn my camera so you could see me doing it, and then when in review, watching that, you could not see anything on my screen. All you could see was the screen glowing in the background, but you couldn't see my little mouser. So that again, and so there's several minutes of you not being able to see what I'm doing. So this is the end result. I've got my notes on how to do the steps of verse mapping. I compiled this from watching multiple videos and reading blogs and just researching it, and I came up with sections and each step in that section, and it's handy. So maybe I'll make a printout of that for everybody, because there was a lot of stuff I had to sift through to narrow it down to this. In the meantime, the verse I chose was, here, I'll at least show you it. We've got Ephesians 2:10. And so I'm thinking that I had this open when I started, and the first thing I did was write out the actual verse here. And I did use my stencil here. And see how straight it is. And then I just started making boxes because I got in a hurry. And because the video was taking a long time. And so I think it's better to not rush through it. And let me see if you guys can see what I'm referring to here. And just make sure that we're doing a good job of it, right? So my first step was select and write down a verse. Choose a verse that stood out to you in some way. This one had. It was, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." And that's the sentence that really struck me. Which God prepared in advance for us to do. It's like, wow, okay. So we need to get into is kind of what I pulled from that. So, and I think that I'm going to underline that too, because that is not this. That's one of those weird pins. We'll do this because that is what really made me pull in and choose this verse. So, I wrote the verse, and then the next step is to write the verse in 2 to 4 different versions of it. So I wrote it in the King James and the NLT. So this is the NIV, which is what I normally use. So I put kind of a little border around this to make this stand out more, because this is my main verse. These are the two pieces that I rewrote it. And then once I was done, I noticed that there was different words. So I used a source called BibleRef.com, BibleRef.com. And like reference, right? So the reason I do that is because it gives like 8 different versions of the Bible all at once. Excuse me. And it's really interesting because if you don't understand it in yours, you can compare it to the other versions. And I think that that's kind of the purpose of this verse mapping, is to really see what it's saying, not by just one version, but all of them. And what I noticed was God's handiwork, then it was his workmanship, and then God's masterpiece. So all 3 versions used a different version of that. And then it said, God hath before ordained that we should walk in them. God prepared in advance for us to do, and then he has planned for us long ago, all referencing the work. So the first reference that I highlighted was God's plan, and then the second one was that he planned it all along. The next thing I did, so it was write the verse, highlight keywords, phrases that stand out to you, look up these keywords in a concordance. Now I tried to do that. It went badly. I've never used a concordance. It was the first time I'd opened it. I'm really excited I got this one. It's got a dedication in it. It's used. I got it on thriftbooks.com. No idea how to use it. So that's going to be my next study project. Because I can see where it says like the word, and then it has all these references of where it was. Oh, well, Genesis, Numbers, Judges. I think the thing that's throwing me is I don't know. These abbreviations are written really weird. I guess 1 CO and 2 CO is 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians. The reference that was in front of the verse or the words I looked up, handiwork, and there were references, but I had no idea what they were. I could not tell. So maybe I need a key. There's no key in there. I don't know. Maybe they assume I'm supposed to know. I don't know anything, so that's the next job, I guess. But it seems like it would be useful. But it was much faster to just look it up on my BibleRef.com, and I got everything I needed without using the concordance. But I hate to open my computer during Bible time. That's the thing that I was hoping the concordance would avoid, and I could flip through it in the Bible, and that just felt so much more study time. I don't know. I was hoping to kind of change the structure of how I'm doing it a little bit. I'm going to zoom back out a little bit. Oops, or the other way. So I was hoping that by using the concordance, it would just kind of change the frame of how I'm doing my Bible study. We'll see. We'll try it again. I haven't given up. But in the BibleRef.com, I was able to find the Greek word, which is polemia, something crafted. And then the context, I was able to put... I have a list. I have a cheat sheet I made myself, guys. And I don't know if you've ever done this, or maybe you guys know this off the top of your heads, but I went through and made myself a cheat sheet. This is the Old Testament, and it's broken down. It says who it's written by, the different books, what they are. So this is I can't say that word, Pentateuch. the first 5 books of the Bible, right? And it's written during Moses' life. So this is the history. All these different books are just history, and I've got notes by who it's happening, and all this stuff. Then I got wisdom and poetry, who it's written by, how it applies, like written by David or took place during the patriarch, but in another land, those kinds of things. So, the major prophets, minor prophets, and then I made notes of the politics that were happening during the time. Then I've got the same thing with the New Testament. We've got the gospel and history, who it's written by, Paul's letters, that it's happening during the time of Acts. Paul's writing these letters. Acts is written by Luke, after Jesus died and the start of the church. So I've kind of mapped out where the books of the Bible fit in history. And that it's 400 years after the Old Testament is written, and Rome is in charge. So other letters, they're different things. So I don't know. I found it interesting that I just found the whole history of all of this interesting, so I mapped it out. But then once it was mapped out, I was like, okay, well, now it's got to be in my Bible for reference. So I was able to give some context, but then I also found, where's my little string? Oh, I moved my string. Oh no. I also found that it's at the front of the chapter in this particular version of the Bible. So Paul wrote it, and it was a letter to the people of Ephesus. So it gives context who wrote it and to whom. So there's some more of that. But so I wrote context written by Paul. See, and there's no R. Written by Paul during the time of Acts, which was written by Luke after Jesus' death. So this is all happening at the same time. The meaning of this is I read, going back to my notes. So define and research. Look up these keywords. Develop context is stage 3. Research the historical, literary. Identify the author, the audience. And then the meaning. Right? Look up where the keywords are. Research. See, this is what happens when you're not doing it in live time. Research the historical literary context by reading through the surrounding verses too. So I went back and I read before and after to kind of root it and not just like pull it out of the Bible and just focus on it, but really root it to get its meaning. And so the meaning was, doing God work is not a way to earn our way to heaven, but it is what comes after we accept God's gift of forgiveness. So it's interesting. I found it interesting because it's not really what I was thinking. I was really focused on this prepared in advance for us. And then here, when you're reading the whole picture, it's really talking about doing God's work is not how we don't earn our way to heaven. It's a fruit, right? It's what comes after we accept God's gift of forgiveness. So in my own words, which is apply to your life, paraphrase the verse in your own words, make sure you understand it correctly. And then I said I would add the step of looking it up after I paraphrased it to compare it to what theologians, because the BibleRef.com also outlines what theologians say something means. And then consider where that falls in your life and end with a prayer. So here's my own words. And then it's a result of salvation. Doing the work that God has laid out for us. Is we desire to do that work because we are saved. And then ending it with prayer. So, and see, this only took 30 minutes instead of an hour and some odd minutes. So, yeah, I wish that it had been better. The video had turned out better, but there's just a lot of time of me quietly writing. So, and reading. And you don't want to, and you not being able to see when I'm actually doing something on screen, you not being able to see it. So it didn't make sense to show you that. So I'll show you this instead, and I will keep working on it. I will keep attempting it till I've got it polished. But we'll see it. We'll see. At least here, I've shown you what I did. And the last thing I did was put like a little title at the top, because I realized as I make more of these during my studies, I really would like to be able to. And the one thing I would do different is I would put this at the top. Like I had seen videos like where it was in the middle and they did, you know, like the lines like woo and woo and woo kind of thing. And to me, I just was like, okay, that's fantastic and everything, but really it would have made more sense for me to have this at the top and just work my way down. So we'll do it maybe a little different next time, but I'm still going to bring you on this journey. And thank you for joining me this morning. Have a great day. Bye.